Hey everybody, Tekking101 here. Okay, so today's video is going to be about a certain topic that some of you might want to come sooner rather than later. It's going to be about the end of Bleach, and this is something, if I kept track of all the questions I get from all my answer time videos, from all my live streams that I've done, the question of that revolves around the end of Bleach is probably going to be somewhere in the top 3 of how many times I've received it. Sometimes I just get asked, how do you think Bleach is going to end? Other times I get like, oh, what's going to happen with Ichigo at the end? What's going to happen with Rukia? Are we going to get to see all the Bankais? Are we going to see Aizen again? And I decided, okay, you know what? I'll just make a video about it. So I'll be talking today about my opinion, my personal ideas of what's going to happen at the end, what plots are, plot development's going to get resolved, what character development's going to happen, simple stuff like that. So I actually made a list here of all the major plot holes in Bleach that I could think of off the top of my head. Probably forgot about a few here, but these are the big ones that a lot of people will agree with. If none of these were resolved by the end of Bleach, there would probably be some kind of mob outside of Kubo's house. Let's say, these are the big ones that I could think of off the top of my head. Now, if you're curious, I did not put certain people revealing their Bankai or Shikai on this list because, honestly, I just don't see by the end of the series everybody's like, hey, everybody's Shikai's revealed, everybody's Bankai's revealed, we get to know every single thing about every single Zanpakuto ever. I don't think that's going to happen in the slightest. What best we could hope for is maybe Yamamoto, Unohana's, Bankai. I don't think we're ever going to see Kempachi's guys. I think that's just something that's never going to be revealed. They might reveal, he can talk to his Zanpakuto now. Maybe they have a better communication. Maybe he can use some kind of special ability. But I never see Kempachi actually activating his Bankai. I just don't see it happening. Now watch what happens in the next chapter. He's going to be like, yeah, bring it on, Stern Ritter leader. Bankai. Freaking nuke. So yeah, aside from Kempachi, I'm thinking maybe all the other Bankais would either be revealed either through the Shinigami themselves, or maybe through the Vandenreich with their Bankai stealing ability. Like Chojiro, for example. Chojiro died, but his Bankai was evidently stolen. It was strongly hinted at it was stolen, so there is a possibility we'll get to see it later on, even though Chojiro is dead. And as for lieutenants, the only ones I can see activating a Bankai is Shuhei and maybe Rangiku. I think because it was hinted at earlier on about their Bankais. At least with Rangiku it was hinted at anyway. So they might reveal their Bankai, and plus those are characters that I think Kubo is trying to push them, at least in the past few arcs. They were trying to push them into the main character slot with Rangiku in the Fake Kurotan arc, and then Shuhei. No one cared about Shuhei. No one knew hardly anything about him, and then he showed up in the Fake Kurotan arc, and he became a really popular character all of a sudden. So maybe those two, but I don't see anyone else. I think actually the only lieutenants we haven't even seen the Shikai of are Nanao, Yachiru, and Nemu. I think those are the only 3. So I'd like to see, I don't even think we've seen their swords in battle. So I would like to see them in a fight, if nothing else, and their Shikai. But as far as Zanpakuto powers go, I think that's it. I don't think we're going to know every single thing by the end of the series. I just don't think it's going to happen. But onto the list itself. The first thing that I put at the top of the list is probably something that when you think of something that you want to be resolved by the end of Bleach, this might be something that pops right into your head, it popped right into my head, and that is Ishin's past. Ichigo's father, who started off the series as just this goofy comic relief character, and not even really much of a parental figure, really. He was just more just there to be goofy, and all of a sudden, bam! Captain level Shinigami takes out Grand Fisher in 2 hits. Freaking awesome. Was it 2 hits or 1 hit? No, there's just 1, I think. Anyway, so just this big reveal here going on, and everyone freaked out. Fan base explodes. It's oh, okay, he's a captain-level Shinigami. What squad's he from? What's the deal? What's his Zanpakuto? What's his Shikai? What's his Bankai? Why did he lose his powers? How did he get them back? What's this have to do with Ichigo? What does Masaki have to do with this? Just big explosion. And just something that, if nothing else, I think Kubo's come out and said this a few times, that he's going to reveal Ishin's story, but I would like to know, even if they take a whole arc to, Turn Back the Pendulum, a shortened arc, just to explain Ishin's past. Dude, I'd be all for that. If they have a Turn Back the Pendulum for him, that'd be epic. So, basically with Ishin, we have a few things here. First off is, what squad's he from? Let's just start there. My opinion is that he's from the 10th squad, because In the past, it was shown that the 10th Division had back in the Turn Back the Pendulum saga, it had like nobody was in the 10th Division, and Toshiro, I think, took up the 10th Division rather recently in the basic story, in the canon storyline. So that would mean the 10th Division would be vacant. Then again, we also have to consider the fact that when Ishin revealed his powers for the first time against Grand Fisher, Shinji was with Ichigo, and Shinji felt his spiritual pressure, but he didn't recognize it, which indicates that he appeared either before Shinji's time or after. And I'm going to go for after, just for the sake of, that would make much more sense, considering that after the Turn Back the Pendulum arc, there was like 6 captain seats unavailable. There was 2nd Division, 3rd Division, no, 5th Division was, 5th Division was gone, 7th Division was gone, 9th Division was gone, 10th Division was always vacant, and 12th Division was gone too because Urahara got defected. So just all these empty captain seats after the Turn Back the Pendulum arc. So you got to consider that then that's when Ishin took up the captain's spot. I'm not sure what squad he's in, but I'm just going to say squad 10. That's just my personal opinion on that. Though the squad number, I don't think that really matters. It's just something that fans would like to know of, because Ishin's outfit has the Captain Hayori, but he's like, hey, I'm gonna wear it all scrunched up here so nobody can see what it actually is. That's clever. But anyway, so we have that. Then we have the whole, if he is a captain, if he was a captain, why did no one mention this? Because he has the same last name as Ichigo. Why didn't, when Ichigo saved the Soul Society from Aizen, not from Aizen, but he revealed Aizen's, plot through Ichigo's, stuff. Why didn't Yamamoto be like, oh, Kurasaki, are you Ishin's son or something like that? Because if Yamamoto's been there for thousands of years, so he would know every Shinigami in existence, probably. So, that was something else I was watching, just forget about that. But just the fact that no one mentioned this. I mean, I guess you could always go with, Kubo never expected that to happen. Maybe he didn't retcon it enough. But the fact is that just no one mentioned him. So that means something else might be going there. Maybe Ishin, when his powers were defected, maybe he's like, oh, don't tell anyone about this. Maybe there's a law in the Soul Society. You don't mention this. Maybe Ishin had a different name. Maybe there was a memory thing involved. I'm not really sure on that one, why no one mentioned it. I'm probably just going to chalk it up to Kubo didn't think that far ahead. But maybe he's going to retcon it later, oh, this is the reason why no one ever mentioned it. But there's that. There's how did he lose his powers, which everyone could pretty much agree on this, that how he lost his powers was with the final Getsuga Tensho, because it was... He should have just flat out said it, because that's basically what he did, because when Ishin was telling him, he's like, I need to teach you the final Getsuga Tensho, there's no way that he would even know about the final Getsuga Tensho unless he performed it himself. He even said to himself, my sword didn't want to teach it to me either. So he most likely lost his powers through the final Getsuga Tensho against some strong enemy. No idea who that would even be. Some hugely strong entity, probably. We'd like to see that maybe in the future, what the story was with that. And then he got his powers back again. I mean, going along with what Rukia said when Ichigo got his powers back, when she stabbed him, even though your powers are gone through the final Getsuga Tensho, you always have, there was a small, little modicum of Shinigami powers tucked away in your soul. It's always going to be there, no matter what happens. So, going along with that logic, maybe Urahara did something to Ishin to restore his powers, maybe, because Urahara showed up right after he killed Grand Fisher. It's like, oh, it's nice being a Shinigami again, huh? There's no indication that he actually did anything, but maybe it is. Going with that with the final Getsuga Tensho for the Zanpakuto, for example, because his Zanpakuto is Engetsu, which I think it means scathing moon. But the similarities between him and Ichigo are you can't miss it. Engetsu, Zangetsu, both are moon related. Both have a final Getsuga Tensho. Both can use Getsuga Tensho, just the regular one. That's just amazing right there. The fact that these two swords have the same ability, which indicates that. It's heavily implied that some of the powers passed down to Sun because his powers are based on Ishin's. So that's interesting right there. So that's basically just a few things of Ishin's past that we'd like to know: how he lost his powers, what squad he's from, what's the history with the Soul Society, how did he get involved with the Soul Society to begin with. Just what's up with that, because it's kind of a mind screw a little bit. But yeah, if nothing else, I would really like to see this by the end of the series. If this does not be, revealed by the end of the series, it's gonna be a problem, because a lot of fans are really hinging on that. Next is, I'm just gonna go right off of this. This is further down the list, but I'm just gonna mention it because I mentioned it earlier. Ichigo's mother, Masaki Kurasaki. Now, big this actually became a big thing discussed in the Bleach fandom, because when Ishin, right before Ishin showed up in the Fake Karakuroton arc, when Aizen was, stating to Ichigo, like, all this crap, like, oh, I've known about you since before you were born. I planned everything out very intricately. It's all been part of my master plan. How you got your powers, how you met Rukia, how you came to Soul Society. It's all been one amazing master plan. And, right at the end of that speech, he says, "You are the son of..." And this is where I get into an issue, because every time I read it, it's always a different translation. I've heard that he was going to say, "You are the son of a human," and then he trails off, and then Ishin shows up, and it's implied that what Aizen was going to say was human and Shinigami. But there's other translations that I've read where he says, "I was the son of a Shinigami and blank," and then that's implying, like, well, what's Masaki then? I've heard every freaking thing under the sun with her. I've heard she's a Shinigami, she's a Hollow, she's a Quincy Hollow. I've heard a bunch of crap. If you watch my Bleach fanfiction video, I even mentioned that in there because I've heard it so much. Honestly, with me, I don't think they're really going to do anything with that. There's been implied that maybe Rangiku is Ichigo's mother, reincarnated as a Shinigami. I've heard that out there, and maybe that's, if I was going to go with anything, I'd probably go with that. But just the fact that Ishin is a Shinigami and Ichigo's father, that's enough for me. I don't need to go with some, like, intricate, like, oh, his mother was also some other kind of entity. I'm fine with Ichigo with his mother being a human, because that was the whole thing that was about. He was half human this whole time. So, if nothing else, I'm happy with that. Just leave that alone. But yeah, I don't have much of an opinion on that, but a lot of people do, apparently. Next is Kempachi and Yachiru's past. And I've heard a lot of really cool stuff about this. If you watch the Elite Aces video he made, I think it was last week, right after the chapter review he did, he talks a lot about Kempachi. That's a really good video. I'll link it in the description and link in the description below. But I'll just go my take on it really quickly of Kempachi and Yachiru's past. Kubo stated that he wants to reveal Yachiru's namesake, because when Yachiru was first met Kempachi, she didn't have a name. She just kind of appeared out of nowhere, which is like indicating like maybe that has something to do with something with Kempachi. I've heard like Yachiru is actually like part of Kempachi, like kind of like a Stark Lily-Net relationship. I've heard that Yachiru is actually his sword. I've heard a bunch of stuff, but it's indicated that Kempachi said, "I'm going to name you after the only person I've ever shown respect for, the only person I've ever admired," and that was kind of tucked away for a while, and then Kubo stated he wants to reveal her namesake, so that's really good if we're going to ever find out about that. That's interesting. Not going to go into much about Kempachi's Bankai, Yachiru's Shikai. Once again, I'd like to see it, but it's not really a big thing here. It's just more of a big thing. Now, this is probably the most unique pair out of the captain-lieutenant relationships, I'd say. I mean, Nemu is Maduri's daughter that he created. That's kind of interesting. But out of them all, I think this is probably the most interesting that most people want to know about more. So, yeah, I've heard a lot of stuff about that. Kubo is pretty much going to imply it. I don't know if it's going to be right now because Kempachi showed up on the battlefield, but there might be some indication later, and I'm really looking forward to that. Next is something that's I'm kind of split on. It's the return of Aizen, because I've heard a lot of stuff about this too. Like, Aizen's coming back. I've heard that Yamamoto's going to free Aizen to save the Soul Society, to, like, fight against the Stern Ridders, which I don't think makes any sense whatsoever. It's like, oh my god, we're being attacked! The entire Soul Society's being destroyed! Let's go break a mass murderer out of jail that almost tried to take over the world and kill God! He would be on our side. Yeah, let's not even go into the Zero Squad first, too. Oh, that's... Why didn't I add that on the list? Geez, Zero Squad. Holy crap, that's a big one I forgot. Zero Squad. Okay, we'll get into that later. But, yeah, Aizen's return. I would be perfectly happy, I've mentioned this way more on more than one occasion, that Aizen just stays off of the series for the rest of the series. I'd be happy with that. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I would be perfectly happy with that. He might show up later in the arc. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think it might be, like, later on as a big reveal. Okay, sorry about that. My camera was falling down. So, with Aizen's release, I think it's going to happen maybe later in the series, in the middle of the arc, as some big reveal, maybe intertwined with the Vandenreich somehow. But I mean, I would be perfectly happy with him not showing up in the series. I think his character started out really good. Like that big reveal with him being the main antagonist, that was perfect. That was just like, you weren't expecting it. It made perfect sense if you actually thought about it. And it's just something that, whoa, you know, like, this was, like, orchestrated by this mastermind, and he can take on, like, we had this big build-up with Ichigo making, like, why can't I think of this word? Revealing, creating, making, unlocking, I guess, his Bankai against Byakuya, and this big, huge training he had, like, I'm gonna, you know, activate Bankai and, you know, beat Byakuya and save Rukia, and he does it, and he fights Byakuya, and then Aizen just takes on his Bankai with one flipping finger. That was perfect. Then he descends and becomes, you know, really, really monologuing, really, really cynical, and like, oh, I'm God, I'm better than you can't stop me. So, yeah, Aizen, yeah, I'd be perfectly happy he doesn't show up again, but I think he is. I think even Kubo hinted at it once. I mean, I can't cite any of these interviews I've heard. I've heard things from my fans that just say stuff like, oh, Kubo said this in an interview. I've seen actual, you know, videos and actual scripts of, like, interviews that he's done, but I don't remember them all off the top of my head. Next is kind of, it's not really tantamount to the story, but it's something fans have been wanting for a while. What happened to Cone? It just disappeared. I can't. Yesterday when I was thinking of this video, I was at work, and I was working, and I was thinking of topics to think of for this video. Zero Squad did not apparently pop into my head, but I was thinking about Cone, and I was trying to backtrack to the last time we saw Cone, and it took me a while. I'm like, okay, last time we saw Cone, that was, oh, geez, wow. Okay, Fullbringer arc, we didn't see him. Fake Car Curtain arc, we didn't see him. Waco Mundo arc, we didn't see him. There's end of chapter, you know, snippets, like when he was, like, in the anime. We saw him when he was the part of the Karker, like, superheroes. Like, he was, like a Karkerizer. He was, like, a superhero, like, Super Sentai. But that's not canon in the manga. I'm like, geez, the last time we saw him had to be the Arankar arc, maybe. That was a long time ago. That's really a long time ago. So, I don't know if Kubo's even going to do anything with him, maybe. Maybe he's thinking, oh, he was just a comic relief character at the beginning of Bleach, but now Bleach is more serious, so, and it's like, it's the end of the arc, so, I mean, I'd like to see him again. I mean, he's not really tantamount to the story. It's not going to be like, oh, Kone's going to save everybody. That would be a really cool way to end the series, actually. You know, Ichigo gets beat down, everyone's dying. Where's the hope? We can't use our Bankai. Cone shows up, he's like, I got this, guys. And just, you know, takes care, just knocks out the Vonderreich leader and Buckbeard in one hit. So yeah, there's that. He was a big player in the Reigai arc, but that was, once again, that's anime filler. But, so yeah, I would like to see him. That's all I have to say about that. Certain character deaths, and this one's going to be focused more on, like, characters that, honestly, I think they're dead, but other people don't. Gin, for example. Gin's dead. He's dead. I've gotten messages like, oh, he's kind of come back, he's gonna, you know, just be alive again. I'm like, no, he's dead, guys. His death worked out really good. There's very few deaths in Bleach. And there's even fewer that I actually agree with, that, like, that death was perfect. Ukiura is someone, for example, that I really enjoyed the arc of how he ended and how he just faded into dust. Like, oh, I understand what a true human heart is. Okay, that was good, I like that. I like Gin's death because died in Rangiku's arms. If you were gonna do it, that's how you were gonna do it. Other like, a spot of deaths, like Stark and Bargain, they're alright. But, yeah, I think Gin's dead, guys. I think he's gone. Grimmjow, for example. Grimmjow is not dead. He's not, if that's how he was gonna go out, that's just like, okay, here's the thing. A lot of stuff happened at the end of the Waco Mundo arc that seemed really rushed, you know, like, so, like, Grimmjow just gets tossed aside, no one ever mentions him anymore. Nell becomes, like, an adult, and then she goes back into a child, and no one ever mentions her anymore. That Afro Arankar that Chad was fighting, he gets healed, no one mentions him anymore. It's like, all these Arankars that was like, okay, what the hell happened? They just all faded into the background until the recent arc started up, and we got to see more of them again. So that's proof that Kubo didn't forget. He's just, yeah, maybe he just pushed them aside just to move on to the story a little bit further. But, yeah, that's just, at the end of that arc, it just seemed really rushed to what's going on, and then Grimmjow just gets tossed aside like by Noitora, and we don't even know what happens to him anymore. But he is still alive. I am looking forward to his return in the recent Bleach arc. It might be him who is holding the sword to Ohara. I've heard things like, well, that sword didn't look like Grimmjow's. I'm like, well, I think Grimmjow's sword looks like everybody else's. The only difference is, like, the hilt. Like, how can you tell the difference between the sword? I was trying to think if maybe his sword was a little bit more, like, rough and like Kempachi's like it was like breaking up, but then again, you could have just, I mean, it's a time skip. You could have changed it. Maybe it's just to prove that it's someone else, or I don't know. But I hope it's Grimjaw. I hope he shows up back up really soon. So the rest of the ones on the list are pretty much going to be focused on the current arc of Bleach, the Vondenreich arc, or the final 1,000-year Holy War arc. See what's going on with this specific arc and what we want to see at the end of this. First with whatever, Uryu Ryukin relationship with the Vondenreich. I mean, this is something that's building to, it has to be building to, because Uryu's a Quincy, Ryukin's a Quincy, and the enemies are Quincy's. We haven't even had a scene with them even being interacting yet. We haven't even seen, like Uryu, last time we saw him was in the human world, and we haven't even seen anything else beyond that. I believe what's going to happen is now that Ichigo's in Wako Mundo, well, he's trapped in the Garganta as of now, and that everyone else is like in separate areas, and now Uryu's pretty much alone in the world of the living, that then the Vondenreich maybe might contact them later. Or he may had a line not recently, back in like 20 chapters ago or so, where it's like, oh, it's so glad that you and Ichigo are now friends now, and that's of course hinting at, well, they might not be friends in the near future due to the Vondenreich and due to all that crap. Is like, is Uryu going to stand by his people? Is he going to be like, oh, you're not the Quincy's I know? Is it going to be like a Doctor Who, like Doctor and the revived Time Lords thing, like you're not the Time Lords that we remember, you're the bad ones? If anyone watches Doctor Who, you get that joke. Well, not really a joke, but yeah, that's what like there has to be some big reveal here. I'm more focused on Ryukin, just because like we don't get to know a lot about Ryukin, and I really like him. He's probably one of my favorite characters, and we don't get to see a lot of him, hardly ever. We saw him during the Fullbringer arc and during when he was teaching Uryu how to regain his powers, but that's it. But he's a Quincy too, and he's apparently maybe even stronger than Uryu at this point. So yeah, I'd really like to see the relationship between that and what's going on there, if nothing else. So next is the 5 war powers. Probably a huge base on fanfiction and fanbase right now. Ichigo has been stated to be one of them. The others are just wide open range. We have no idea. I've heard, oh, Yamamoto has to be one, Kempachi has to be one, which Kempachi would make sense, just because he doesn't have a Bankai and therefore would not be subjected to... He has like captain level Ryatsu, maybe even higher than that, but he doesn't have a Bankai, so he would definitely be a threat. Yamamoto would definitely be a threat, especially since the Buckbeard had passed with him later. That's on here too. Yamamoto's past, get into that. 5 war powers, like I said, I haven't really focused on this that much, what's going on. I would guess Uryu would be one. That would probably be a thing there, because we had Kurji mention, Kuruhei mention Uryu, like, oh, Ichigo was fighting him, and he said, your holy arrow is stronger than Uryu's, and Kuruhei is just like, oh, well, my arrow's stronger than Uryu's? That's impossible. That can't be right. So it's evident that they know of each other, if nothing else. So looking forward to the 5 war powers. I'm going to say Uryu, Yamamoto, Kempachi, Ichigo, and the last one is up for grabs, because those are the 4 that I might be going with right now. Maybe not they're all maybe not all of the war powers are necessarily Shinigami. They might be something else. They might be objects, like the Soul King, for example, might be one. That's another thing, too. I'll get to that right now. The Zero Squad and the Soul King. What's up with them? The Soul King has been stated to be more like a figurehead. He's not really necessarily powerful. He's more like the linchpin of what Urahara referred to him as. Just the fact that Aizen said he was going to kill the Soul King, and everyone was like, okay, if he does this, then this is going to happen. This is pretty much going to be like, he's going to be God, essentially. So you look at that and you're like, well, the Soul King might not technically be that strong. Hell, it might not even be an actual Shinigami. It might not be a person. It might be just an object for all we know. We're not sure exactly what the hell it is. So that's pretty much shrouded in mystery. The Zero Squad is kind of mysterious. We know a little bit more about that. We know that it's higher up than any other, squad. It's higher, superior even to the Central 46, higher than the head captain himself. We know Kiryu Hikifune is part of it, the squad who... 12th Division before Urahara. There's speculation that Ishin might be part of this. Like he went to the Souls, like he went to the Zero Squad. That might be a thing. What squad he's part of, for example. We haven't seen any of them yet. There's the question, of course, that I always wondered. Like, okay, they're like this mysterious squad that's like this. Like they're dedicated to guard the Soul King. Like that's their job, but you also have to consider that the Soul Society, I mean, if shit goes down and they get destroyed, shouldn't the Zero Squad show up? I mean, I know, like, they're supposed to guard the Soul King, but the Soul Society is kind of important too, right? That's what I did. Like, well, in the war with Aizen, when, like, captains were dropping left and right, lieutenants were getting killed. I mean, well, not killed, but, you know, almost killed. Why didn't this, like, this is high stakes here. Why didn't the Zero Squad show up then, when everyone was pretty much dead? Once again, not dead, just knocked out. But you get what I mean, right? Why didn't they show up then? And even now in the arc, that's what I personally think that's where Yamamoto was going, to like somehow contact the Zero Squad, because this is beyond them. They can't, it's very clear that some of the captains can hold their own, but even captain level on a few occasions are getting beaten down pretty strong. Byakuya, for example, there's not even any clear indication that Kempachi might win in the fight. You know, I mean, Kempachi's a badass, don't get me wrong, but these guys, I mean, they took out Byakuya, so these guys are freaking strong. So, Zero Squad, definitely, in this arc, and I sooner rather than later, I'm thinking on these guys. I think they're going to show up rather soon. Maybe not all at once in one big group, but maybe just like a few of them, just to, you know, showcase their power, like, okay, I'm a representative of the Zero Squad, I'm here to, you know, fight this guy or whatever. Makes sense. So that's that. Talked about Yamamoto's past a bit. Oldest ancient Shinigami, most powerful Zanpakuto. He has some history with Buckbeard. I would just like to see him, like, you know, like a younger Yamamoto, like what went on with that when, like, he was younger, and the conflict between Buckbeard and in general. Probably I was going to say the conflict somehow came to a height at, like, when the Quincy's were dying out, like, 200 years ago. But yeah, there was that conflict with Mayuri when he said, this is kind of your fault because you failed to kill this guy all those years ago, and I'd really like to see a flashback about him too, and just what's going on with that. Though that's something we might not get. We might get a flashback of what happened with Buckbeard and Yamamoto, but we might not get any more flashbacks with him. But interesting guy. He didn't really score that high. I did a top, like the best Bleach captain poll. He ranked number 12. He did not get that high. He only got like 3 votes. His Bankai, for instance, is something. I was thinking that since they have Chojiro's Bankai now, and so since, you know, Chojiro and Yamamoto were like captain lieutenant, and like Chojiro was his lieutenant for a very long time, maybe now, like, whichever Stern Ritter that Yamamoto is going to fight, because I'm sure that's going to happen in the future, they're going to use Chojiro's Bankai, and he might have to use his Bankai against it, and that's how that's going to go. Okay, so okay, so now we have one thing left on the list, and this is more of a fanfic than anything else. Orihime X Ichigo. Now, before you start shouting at me, like, I thought you were Ichiruki, I thought you were for that. I am for that, but Kubo has not really... Kubo stated it's not a romantic manga. It's not that kind of manga. There's not a lot of instances where characters have, like, romantic feelings for each other. That's mostly all the fans. The most we ever got was Orihime and Ichigo when Orihime was in his bedroom. He's like, oh, I fell in love with you 5 times or whatever. So, and so I always thought that when the series ends, we're going to have, like, you know, the big epic showdown, you know, all the final fights and everything gets sorted out, and then I was figuring there was going to be some kind of time skip, like, in the future, like, here's what happens in the future, and then we would see Orihime and Ichigo get married. That's not necessarily what I wanted to see, but that's the direction Kubo clearly is going, because he's pushing the Orihime Ichigo thing when, you know, fans are kind of split on it, for example, me in particular. But, yeah, I think that's just how it's going to go with that. And Bleach is not a very romantic-heavy series, but the most we would probably ever get at the end of the series is time skip to the future. We get to see all the Shinigami, what they're doing. Maybe then we see Ichigo, what happens after he dies. Maybe he's going to become a captain after he dies, new head captain. That's an idea. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Okay, so that's just a few predictions on the stuff that I wish we get resolved by the end of the series. I'm sure not all of it's going to happen, but if nothing else, just the big ones, you know, Kempachi, Ishin, what's going on with Uryu and Ryukin, the 5 war powers are definitely going to get revealed, because that's like a main focus of the chapter. Zero Squad and the Soul King, those are probably the ones I want to see the most, if nothing else. So thanks for watching this video. I know this has been dragging on for a while. Sorry for making you sit through my droll so long. But that's my opinions of what needs to be resolved by the end of Bleach. So everyone, thanks for watching. Don't know when it's going to end. I've heard things as short as, like, this arc's only going to last 2 years to like 5 to 10 years. I don't think it's going to even close to last that long. I'm going to bet maybe on another 2. But you never know with Kubo, right? So everyone, Tekking101 signing out. See you guys.